Guests, please take your seats and welcome to the stage NACD's immediate past president, Kim LaFleur.
Welcome to the National Association of Conservation Districts 2026 annual meeting. We are so glad to have you with us here in San Antonio, Texas for 3 days filled with learning and networking with conservation leaders from across the nation. This year's theme is Deep Roots, Bold Horizons. The theme for NACD's 80th anniversary year connects us to our deep-rooted history and the bold horizons we can reach together as we move confidently into the future. This year's logo features an oak tree, a traditional symbol for 80 years. Long-lived with deep roots, oak trees embody strength, longevity, wisdom, and endurance. The iconic live oak here in San Antonio next to the Alamo is a great example of these qualities. As we gather this week, let's reflect on our deep roots and the bold horizons ahead as we work together to conserve our nation's natural resources. NACD extends a special thank you to the Association of Texas Soil and Water Conservation Districts for hosting this year's event. Together, we have put many planning hours into this meeting. We are confident that your time here will be filled with great learning and networking opportunities. Please take advantage of these days together so you can learn, ask questions, and network so you can return home with new knowledge, ideas, and inspiration for how to best support conservation goals in your local community. To facilitate your participation in this year's annual meeting, download the free event app called SCED on your Apple or Android smartphone. You can point your smartphone camera to the QR code displayed on the screens to get SCED. Here you'll find a digital meeting program, session descriptions, speaker bios, and more. We will host close to 60 breakout sessions at this meeting, and we're proud this year to offer opportunities for certified professionals in agronomy, soils, and forestry to continue their education to maintain their certifications. For select breakout sessions, we will offer continuing education units through the Science Societies and continuing forestry education with the Society of American Foresters. The sessions eligible for continuing education credits have a CEU or a CFE or both next to the session title on our agenda. They cover diverse topics such as cover crops, agroforestry, media training, the use of biochar, precision agriculture, and more. To receive continuing education credits, certified participants can document their attendance by completing the session sign-in sheet on site. If you prefer a printed schedule, they are available at the registration desk. However, SCED will have the most up-to-date information, including any room changes. Thank you for your continued leadership, engagement, and dedication to voluntary, locally led conservation. If I or any of the other NACD officers or staff can be of assistance to you, please don't hesitate to ask. Now, everyone, please stand with me if you are able for the presentation of colors by members of the Air Force Junior Reserve Officers Training Corps program from the O'Connor High School in Helotes, Texas. Commanding the detail and bearing the U.S. flag is Cadet Carla Perez. Bearing the Texas flag is Cadet Amy Davis. The right guard is Cadet Xander Gage, and the left guard is Cadet Soraya Maldonado. Please remain standing while we welcome NACD board member for the Association of Texas Soil and Water Conservation Districts, immediate past president, Kent Batman, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and then continue to stand for our national anthem, sung by Autumn Nelson, an FFA member and student at O'Connor High School in Helotes, Texas.
Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we've watched, we're so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you, O'Connor High School students, Autumn Nelson, and members of the Air Force Junior Reserve Officers Training Corps program, and Kent for joining us and getting us started this morning. Please be seated. Now for an annual tradition, our Parade of Regions. As we announce our 7 regions, representatives of each state and territory present from each region will join me on the stage to pose for a group photo. It is my honor to also invite Leroy Wolf, President of the Association of Texas Soil and Water Conservation Districts, to join me on stage to be part of these photos. This procession is a tribute to our states, territories, and regions that we serve year-round. Let's begin the parade.
North Central.
Okay. Thank you. Welcome. Are you guys being silly?
Northeast.
Got a choker, right?
Northern Plains.
You can ask me time.
Pacific. South Central. Southeast. Southwest.
Let's give a round of applause to our states and territory representatives, region chairs, and executive board members. This parade symbolizes our unique strengths. Together, we are one unified voice for voluntary, locally led conservation. Next, please join me in welcoming to the stage for his President's Address, NACD President Gary Blair.
So Jeremy has this really nice iPad with all of his notes on it, and I grow pine trees, or I did before the ice storm, so I have paper, so I'm kind of more old school. Welcome to San Antonio, welcome to the Riverwalk, welcome to the rodeo. I hope you have had a great time here in San Antonio and enjoyed outside of this great hotel. I think I spent 2 days, I never walked outside, but it's great to get out there on the Riverwalk and have a good time. Through my travels over this last year, I had the opportunity to hear a lot of great things that are going on across our nation and things that are happening. And I was really inspired when I was in West Virginia of a gentleman that did their memorial service, and he entitled that memorial service, "Why do we do what we do?" Why do we do what we do? We serve others, we provide advocacy, leadership development, funding through conservation programs. It's why we do what we do. We serve our farmers and ranchers across this great nation by doing what we do. So I have oak trees on my farm. The oak trees survived the ice storm. The pine trees didn't, so I still got plenty of good oaks and can have a good fire from firewood. But oak trees on my farm are strong. They're majestic. However, they're only as strong as the roots that they have and the soil that they're in. And we're all about soil. We're all about water. I have a stream on my farm that flows through the farm that, as a kid, I drank from that farm. Made sure I was above the cattle, or below, above the cattle crossing, not below it. But that water off my farm goes into several tributaries and rivers and into the Mississippi River. So it mixes with the water off of just about everything on the eastern continental divide. And then it goes into the Gulf. So water off of your farms mixes with the water off of my farm. And if my farm's water is clear and good, then hopefully by the time it makes it into the Gulf of Mexico, it's that way. You know, we all have strong winds that come across our lands, and we have fertile soil, but the oak tree's roots in that great soil maintain the fact that that oak tree can withstand those strong winds. And the oldest and tallest oaks can usually sustain a lot more than the younger oaks. 2025 brought winds of change, challenges, but most importantly, 2025 brought opportunities to provide conservation and for our conservation districts across the nation. At NACD, we're very proud of the 80 years of history and the things that we've done for the American farmers and ranchers across the nation by the work that we do in our local conservation districts. And also during this same time, we have celebrated last year 90 years of NRCS, our longtime partner, and the work that we've done hand in hand. 90 years ago, a gentleman by the name of Hugh Hammond Bennett, after the dust storm, saw the need to have a better organization on a national level. Hugh Hammond Bennett is the father of soil conservation. He became the chief of the Soil Conservation Service, and he began the work on a federal level to reestablish the farms and ranches across our nation and the soil and water conservation efforts. After several years, he realized he needed a helping hand. He needed farmers and ranchers serving on local boards that could provide advice from the local level up to the national level. So we are started because we're locally led for conservation efforts. We have the same founder that NRCS has because he realized, hey, I need some help. I can't do it all from the federal level, so I need local efforts to be done. So we were formed in Chicago, Illinois. If you haven't seen, we've got books of that very first meeting of the men and women around that table that started the National Association of Conservation Districts. And here in San Antonio, we're celebrating 80 great years of service to our farmers and ranchers, so give yourself a big hand. It all began in those fertile soils. And my friend Pete Hunter from Mississippi, he talks about, well, the Dust Bowl brought all the fertile soils that's in the Mississippi Delta from Oklahoma and Texas and across the nation that were deposited after the dust storm. But our oak trees grow in that fertile soil, and we work together with our other conservation partners. We work together, not separately. Through 2025, we have seen dollars that have been frozen, delayed, challenges. It's brought concern among our district employees, our state agencies, our RC&D councils, and our working together with NRCS. And we are there to advocate for conservation on the Hill and across the nation. The One Big Beautiful Bill that was passed provided conservation dollars all the way out to 2030. And NACD advocated to maintain those dollars because those dollars could have been taken away from conservation, but within that act and in that bill, we were able to retain those dollars. And by retaining those dollars, we also got a 55% increase for EQIP, 49% for RCPP, 36% increase in CSP, 26% in ASAP. We tripled the PL 566 funding and $105 million for the feral swine program. And we also extended CRP. Congress did that through our advocacy efforts. This provides more predictable funding for volunteer incentive-based conservation across our nation going into the next 10 years from now. Early in 2025, I had the opportunity to meet our chief, Aubrey Bettingcourt of NRCS. And at that time, we began talking about how we could work better, be a little bit more bolder, like bold horizons, and do the things that we need to work together on. We met with all of our partners in the Hugh Hammond Bennett boardroom in the South Building there in DC. And through our National Conservation Planning Partnership and our National Conservation Partners, we began thinking about what could we begin to do a little bit more bolder, with a little bit better technology and a little bit better futuristic thinking. I also had the opportunity to host Chief Bettingcourt in Mississippi on several different farms from across the northern part of the state. And on those hot, dusty July days there in Mississippi, she was out in the cotton fields, looking at the cotton bolls, checking the soil, looking at the cover crops underneath those cotton plants that had been planted by that farmer in Panola County, Mississippi. She left there and went to the home of Muddy Waters in the Mississippi Delta and spent a day on the afternoon on that farm and the rest of the day there. So she's been doing this ever since she was named chief, to go across the nation. And if you haven't seen them, hopefully you have, her little segments on dishing in the dirt, where she talks about how we provide better soils and conservation. We also have a great friend in our FPAC, Undersecretary Richard Fordyce from Missouri. Mr. Fordyce had the opportunity, or we had the opportunity for Mr. Fordyce to visit with us in December. I had met him previously, and he's worked very closely with our second Vice President, Ron Britt. But Mr. Fordyce is an advocate for what we're doing within conservation districts, and we're very glad to have him. Throughout 2025, I traveled to DC 9 times. They got to know me pretty well on those Delta flights. But the main thing, and I had the opportunity to also testify before the Senate Ag Committee, But it wasn't me, it was you. I was testifying on behalf of you. The 17,000 district supervisors across our nation, the 5,000 conservation districts, all of our district employees, and each of you in this room was who I was talking about to the Senate Ag Committee when we were there. We've been fortunate to work in conservation for 80 years. We're a dues-based, membership-based organization. We cannot do it without you. We need dues payments, we need you, we need the programs that our district employees are doing across the nation. Over the past 8 to 10 years, we've been very fortunate. In addition to receiving the funds from NRCS, we also received a number of funds through the Forest Service, EPA, the Department of Defense, Scott's Miracle-Gro, and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. We have found some ways to diversify the revenue that we receive at NACD, but we've got to do a better job. We've got to find more partners and more people so that we can be about every acre, every American, every day. This slogan has been on the back of every NACD officer, executive board member, every employee for at least 10 years now. I think a slogan for every acre, every American, every day is very important. There's my notes. Luckily, that was my first page. We do have a passion for our working lands and our farmers and ranchers and land stewards across the nation. Our future is very bright. We have programs such as advancing markets for producers. These dollars were saved through the previous administration's programs. We can work on those over the next 2 years. The Regenerative Ag program that you've heard about will bring opportunities, dollars, and programs into the USDA service centers for the farmers and ranchers of America. One farmer, one file, the chief talked about that while she was here, is an opportunity for us to have a better open looking at the entire farm operation instead of just focusing on different parts where if you go into FSA, you see the same file, the same information as you do in the NRCS. We're looking for greater outcomes. You know, we think about what we do. A lot of the times, and I know on my farm, the practices that my father, my grandfather installed 50 years ago are still there. I still have the overflow pipes that keep the water from just rushing into the local creeks and streams. I still have my tile terraces on my farm. I have the practices. I have my watershed lake that was built when I was a kid. It's still there, it's still serving its purpose and doing the things. So sometimes it's hard to know on day 2 what we've done on day 1. But there still needs to be, everything needs to be more of an outcome based through our technical assistant grants and the working with NRCS. Regenerative Ag programs use comprehensive farm plans, as I already mentioned. We were established 80 years ago, as I mentioned, to work side by side with NRCS. The NACD board has been looking at, over the last 6 or 8 months, a strategic plan. While we're here in San Antonio, we will approve that strategic plan. And our board has been engaged on a more outcome-based approach for a strong future, just like our oak tree has. It goes back to your farms and ranches. So we're here today to let's come back to where I started. Why do we do what we do? We do what we do to make our farms and ranchers better for our children, our grandchildren, and those that come behind us. On my farm, I see the benefits that my granddaddy did, my great-granddaddy, and my father did on my farm. One of the things that has come out of this last 6 or 8 months has been to revitalize our conservation planning programs and get certified conservation planners on the ground. Here in San Antonio, we've got a class of 40 young people or people from across the nation learning and training to be certified conservation planners. They will be better equipped when they leave San Antonio to go back home and work with their farmers and ranchers. So let me introduce a brand new video that's just come out. It's built on more than a decade of feedback. NCPP is launching a new nationwide incentive here in 2026, and one of those initiatives is conservation planning training, as I mentioned. There's more to come, but join me in watching this video.
Being a good steward of our natural resources is more than just recycling a plastic bottle. It takes innovation, it takes intention, it takes collaboration. In 2015, the National Conservation Planning Partnership, a union between 5 partners, was created to bring those ideals together to advance conservation planning. Through this collaboration, NCPP provides a variety of resources, training, and certification tools to all conservation planners. These educated planners provide consistent, high-quality support to farmers, ranchers, foresters, and other land stewards in their communities, resulting in long-term environmental health and agricultural sustainability. NCPP has influenced policy, held leadership trainings and listening sessions, created awards for conservation excellence, and streamlined the path to certification. NCPP is committed to advancing conservation planning across the nation. For resources, training information, and support, visit wearencpp.com.
So just as the video just said, please join me. Let's give it a hand. Yeah, that's great. Thank you. I do want to mention several people. This is a collaboration of our entire partnership, but we could not have done this. Just like we can't do our work in our local districts without our district employees, we could not have put this together without Melissa Higbee and Sarah Tunge. So give them a big hand, please. Sarah headed up kind of the team to do the marketing and the outreach, and she's done a fantastic job. This video is one of the best productions that we've had. We've got people here on site that are also interviewing people to share the news of what conservation planning is all about. So over the next couple of months, in addition to wearencpp.com, we're going to also be rolling out and launching more resources for your conservation planning. So at this time, I'm going to ask that we run an additional video that will share a little bit more about that. This is a hype video now, so you got to get ready. Be hyped up. Hey, woo! So we are looking at those bold horizons, and I think those bold horizons will begin with as we look at conservation planning, and a lot of that conservation planning certification work will be rolled out over this next year. We'll have training sessions just like we have here in San Antonio across the nation. The chief talked about having listening sessions as she moves forward with her programs. Hopefully we can be able to tie some of those into your local working groups, your state technical committees, because she's going to need your input. And we appreciate the input we received also with our strategic plan. Our strategic plan was totally developed on the responses that you gave back to us about what you wanted the future of NACD to be. But the implementation of that strategic plan is the most important part of it. And our CEO, Jeremy Peters, your officer team, and the board of directors, your executive board, are all going to work to make sure that strategic plan makes a difference in Guam, Maine, and all across the nation, every point in between. So in closing, I want to thank you first and foremost for being here in San Antonio. You made the effort to register, leave your home, get on an airplane. Some of you got delayed several times, but you got here. So take advantage of the training sessions, the breakout sessions, and the other sessions that we have provided for you here in San Antonio. Take those back home with you. Don't let it sit on a shelf. We're not going to let that strategic plan sit on a shelf. Terry Grigsby warned me, if we let it sit on the shelf, it doesn't do any good, so we're not going to let it sit on the shelf. Our fiscal year 2025 annual report will be in your mailbox, hopefully when you get back. I encourage you to go through that annual report from this past year, look over it. There's a lot of great examples of the conservation efforts that you are doing across the nation. So take time to read through it and share your thoughts back to us. 97% of our states and territories and our free associated states receive funding through NACD. 58 states, territories, and associated states, 97% of you guys receive some sort of funding back through our NACD programs and projects in 2025. So just as the oak tree on my farm, we are NACD. I'm not NACD. You are NACD. We're only as strong as our roots run deep in the great soils of our farms and ranches across the nation, the fertile soils, and our branches reach out for those bold horizons on that oak tree. I want to thank you for this honor to serve as your national president. I never would have thought when I went into my local conservation district and was asked to serve on the local board as a deputy commissioner, as a volunteer, not an elected board member, that I'd ever be here today. But you never know what your future holds, and I would say we're only as strong as those that mentor us and mentor each other. So go back home, mentor your NRCS employee, mentor your district employee, mentor those people in your community, and tell them who we are and what we do. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary, for your leadership and service this past year as NACD's president. Let's give him another round of applause. Now, please join me welcoming to the stage NACD's Chief Executive Officer, Jeremy Peters, for his CEO report.
All right, good morning, everybody. Who all had fun at the rodeo last night? All right. I heard it was good. I ended up not being able to make it. I had a bunch of stuff that kept me here at the hotel, but I'm glad to hear that everyone had a great time and enjoyed yourself. For a lot of people, you can now say, that was not my first rodeo. Well, welcome to San Antonio. As Kim mentioned, my name's Jeremy Peters. I serve as your Chief Executive Officer for NACD, and what a pleasure it is to be with you this morning and to serve as your one of your national officers. Before I start my remarks, I wanted to take a moment to recognize our national staff and leadership. If you're a member of our staff, if you're on our board of directors, if you're on the executive board or an officer, would you please stand to be recognized? Thank you. Truly, the national team that we have together, that's where the magic happens. We've got a lot of talented folks on our staff, on our leadership, and being able to witness the collaboration, the work that occurs not only here at the annual meeting, but throughout the year is just remarkable, the amount that we're able to get done together. So my hat's off. I really just appreciate all the work that our national team does. Also wanted to take a moment to thank the Association of Texas Soil and Water Conservation Districts. We've been looking forward to being here in San Antonio for quite some time now. Y'all are always such gracious hosts. Folks love coming to your state, and we're having a good time. Thank you all for everything that you all have done as part of our planning committee, and look forward to the rest of the meeting. So let's give Texas a big round of applause. When I first started my career with NACD in 2006, the world was a different place. We were preparing for the launch of things like the social media platform Twitter. Congress was preparing to rewrite a new farm bill with an equally divided government. Democrats had just swept the midterm congressional elections, and Republicans controlled the White House. Apple was on the verge of introducing a revolutionary and much anticipated new device called the iPhone, which would forever change the way people around the globe lived, worked, and played. Fast forward to 2026. Social media and the advent of artificial intelligence has exploded into a global phenomenon that both enhances our ways of living and also serves as an existential threat, both environmentally and socially. We live in a time of deep partisan divisions and less civic involvement than in previous generations, and governments around the world are increasingly radicalizing as accelerated social changes bring about a new economic and political environment, perhaps even a new world order that disrupts the post-war era that has provided the relative stability since World War II. The Greek philosopher Heraclitus, who lived around 500 BC, said, "No one ever steps in the same river twice, for it's not the same river, and we are not the same person." Think about that for a moment. Whether we're moving to a new place, starting a new job, facing a global challenge, or simply trying to break an old habit, change is constantly knocking on our door. For some of us, that knock brings fear. We prefer the comfortable, the known, the predictable. We chain ourselves to the safety of routine, often ignoring the fact that those chains prevent us from moving forward. But I'm here today to urge us to look at change a little differently. When I was in Minnesota back in December, I attended the State Association meeting in Minneapolis, and I was really struck by an individual that emceed their awards luncheon. And one of the things that stuck with me was a joke that he told. Who can tell me what are the 7 most expensive words in farming? Anybody? We have always done it this way. Right? That resonates. Change is not a storm to be feared. It is the wind that propels us forward. It is a powerful force for good, offering us the opportunities to grow, to innovate, and to create the future we truly desire. Without change, there is no growth. Without challenging the status quo, there is no progress. As human beings, we are meant to evolve. When we stop changing, we stop growing. And the same is true of organizations. Despite the accelerated changes we're experiencing at this point in human history, the work of our nation's soil and water conservation districts remains just as relevant today as it did in the 1930s when Hugh Hammond Bennett first advocated for a national program to address the growing national menace of soil erosion. From those early days of soil and water advocacy, the network of SWCDs has grown to nearly 3,000 strong, working with farmers and landowners across the United States, territories, and freely associated nations. Technical support to our nation's farmers, ranchers, and forest owners remains a vitally important component of our locally led conservation delivery system, which is the backbone of the federal, state, and local government partnership. As we reflect on the accomplishments of this past year, I'm heartened at everything we have done together to advance conservation despite the headwinds we might face. But we cannot be satisfied with a job completed. There remains so much work to be done to advance our mission and continue the journey that Mr. Bennett began over 90 years ago. One only has to witness the dust storms that have gripped parts of the country in recent years to know that while we've accomplished a lot of great work for conservation, there are still many landowners on the fence about taking that first big step into their conservation journey. Every farm visit, every conversation, every conservation plan developed is a success story. It reflects the trust earned by our partnership for a farmer to take that important first step, to break the chains of routine, and to risk making a change, to risk failure or financial loss. And every first step is a cause for celebration and storytelling of another conservation journey begun. We will get there, and so will the fence setters, but it will take each of us working together with one voice to continue advancing soil and water conservation in 2026 and beyond. And I'm confident together the soil and water conservation movement in the United States has some of its best years to come. As I close, again, I want to thank you for being here with us this week. Enjoy your time together. Enjoy the great sessions, the great events that we have planned, but most importantly, enjoy your time together, your camaraderie, connecting with old friends, making new, and take that energy back home with you to spread the good word about everything that's occurring with your national association. Enjoy your national convention in San Antonio, and as always, please never hesitate to reach out to a member of our national leadership and staff if we can be of assistance to you or to your local soil and water conservation district. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy, for your leadership and the work you and your staff do for this association. Please join me in giving him another round of applause. It is now my honor to introduce our keynote speaker for this morning, Chet Garner. Chet is the creator, host, and executive producer of the Daytripper, an 18-time Emmy-award-winning Texas travel show airing on PBS stations across the country. The Daytripper takes viewers on adventures with Chet as he explores Texas's natural wonders, food, and history, all things made possible in Texas and everywhere through good land stewardship and natural resources conservation. Born and raised in Texas, Chet's love for storytelling began at a young age around the Boy Scout campfire and toting around his grandfather's VHS video camera. Chet earned a degree in radio, television, and film from the University of Texas at Austin. After law school and practicing law for 3 years, he decided to return to his roots and follow his passions, inspiring people to appreciate the beauty, history, and food of the Lone Star State. The Daytripper has won 19 Lone Star Emmys, including 5 for Outstanding Program Host, and has become a Texas institution. Chet's company has also grown to become a full-service commercial production company. Chet's travels help us all realize that some of the greatest adventures in the world are the ones closest to where we live. Please join me in welcoming to the stage Chet Garner.
Howdy. How's everybody doing? We good? All right. So my name's Chet Garner. I know we've got a national audience here, but how many of y'all are from Texas, know what the Daytripper is? Show of hands. Okay, we got a few fans in the audience, but for the rest of y'all, this will be a little bit of an education, who I am, what I do, and the deep passion I have for folks that are doing what y'all do, and also folks who are out there telling stories. So let's go ahead. I want to break the ice a little bit. Let's get us all energized. I know that heavy breakfast is, starting to settle. We're getting a little sleepy, the morning sleepies. So I'm going to have a little poll here. Texas is so big, but so is the country, right? And so we've come from all different sort of places, different backgrounds. And so I just like to kind of get to know the audience a little bit. So I'm going to ask y'all a couple questions, and I need y'all to vote. Everyone must vote. And in my highly mathematical brain, I'm going to count everyone, size y'all up, and then appropriately adjust my speech to how y'all vote. So, all right, you're going to see, it's easy. You're going to see an image on the left. If you like the one on the left, point left. If you like the one on the right, point to the right. I'm going to count y'all. Might judge you a little bit, but that's okay. We're all friends here. So, are we more big city people or country people in the audience? I think I probably know the answer to this one here. But okay, all right, it's a little bit mixed up. All right, here we go. You get one vacation. Do you want to go to the beach or do you want to go to the mountains? Will we be more mountain people, beach people? I think, okay, we're more mountain people. All right, that's fair. Here we go. You're going to go swimming. Are you going to swim in a natural body of water or like, I only want chlorine. I need nothing to be alive in this water. Okay, all right, no surprises there, country folk. All right, you get one meal to eat before you die. And in Texas, this is the hardest decision we have to make. Tex-Mex or barbecue? Okay, all right, there's some men in the back going, no, never! Okay, here we go. We take our road trip playlists very seriously in Texas, so this is sort of the dividing line. What's on your road? Is your road trip playlist more Willie or Queen Bee? Okay, Willie Nelson, that's nice. And here's a very important, is it the Cowboys or anyone else? Wait, oh, wrong. It's only the Cowboys. It's all the time. And if no one said it yet, this coming year, this is our year. I feel so sad. That's just making me sad. I'm going to go to the next slide. All right. I'm just kidding. All right, good. I feel like I kind of know y'all a little bit better. So, but y'all don't know me. As Kim said, my name's Chet. I'm a native Texan, born and raised, and before I get too deep into what I want to share with y'all today, I'll give y'all a little background about who I am, where I grew up. So I was born in this little town called Comanche, Texas, and people in Texas don't even know where Comanche is. So here's where it is on the map. It's a little star. Grew up out in the country. We had pet goats, but my dad was a physician, kind of a country doctor. He delivered me and all of my three siblings in Comanche, Texas. And so I remember growing up out in the country, had a blast. But when I was young, after kindergarten, my dad set all of us down on the couch and he said, hey kids, we've got to transfer jobs. As a family, we've got to move. I'm going to take a job transfer, but I want y'all's input into where we move. And so he set us down on the couch and he asked us, do y'all want to move to the mountains or to the beach? Kind of similar question like I just asked y'all. And we were little, and so we said, the beach. He said, all right. And then we loaded up the family Suburban and moved to Port Arthur, Texas. Show of hands, who's ever taken a beach vacation to Port Arthur, Texas? I am so sorry that happened to your childhood. It's not your fault. Truthfully, it's down in the bottom right corner, sort of shoved over there with all the Cajuns and the alligators in Louisiana, a lot of rice farming, crawfish farming down there, and that's where I was raised. Swampy waters, Zydeco music, very good folks, but no beach, definitely no beach, all swamp. But what I remember very vividly, having sort of a childhood in different parts of Texas, but also all of our family was still back where the relatives were in that central Texas sort of area. And so what that meant is every holiday, y'all can probably relate, we were going to load up the family Suburban and we were going to make a road trip to go and see my relatives. Now, back then, the way we traveled, y'all can probably relate to this for sure. You just get a big family vehicle, right, like a Suburban or a station wagon. You got to get the luggage and the kids in there. So what do? You rip out the back seat, stuff the luggage in, and then just put a mattress on top. Did y'all travel by mattresses, kids? Of course y'all did. Before we cared about the health and safety of children as a society, and we just let you spend 7 hours wrestling your brothers and sisters on top of a mattress. And so it never failed that we'd be on some dusty back road, and all of a sudden, we go from the back of the Suburban to the front of the Suburban as my dad hauled us out to look at what I called as a little kid tombstones of death. They looked like this. You guys can probably relate. Y'all got these things in your states. I know where you are. There's nothing worse for a childhood than being forced to read a historic marker. It's awful. And so we would be with my dad and have to listen to him tell us why we were staring, at the most important fence post in Texas history. Y'all got the same ones, right? Davy Crockett whizzed here on the way of the Alamo, whatever. We got some dumb markers in Texas. But this was my childhood, right? Getting subjected to history, looking at the world as it went by at 55 miles an hour out the Suburban window. And, it made an impression on me. And as much as I might have despised it as a little kid, the stories that I got to hear my dad or my grandfather tell me made an impact on me. And so I was drug around Texas, got to see a whole lot of it, got to see this for sure. And I don't know how many of y'all have been here yet. Show of hands, who's seen the Alamo? All right, everyone, yeah, good. Was that forced mandatory visiting yesterday for y'all or something? The Alamo, every kid makes a field trip there at some point, or your parents bring you there. And I remember those stories really sinking in with me as a young child, and thinking this is the most important historic site on the planet. Now, as you get older and you start to have a couple more experiences around, and then you get heartbroken because you go and you read what the internet says about the Alamo. Have y'all ever Googled the Alamo? Here's the headlines out there. USA Today lists San Antonio's attractions among the most overrated tourist traps on the planet. Oh, it's like a dagger to a Texan's heart. The Alamo is a tourist trap? Are you kidding me? What? Do you not know the story of the sacrifice, looking death in the eyes and standing up and saying, victory or death, we're not giving up, right? So what's the difference? How is it that somebody can stand in front of that, limestone structure and be moved to tears, meanwhile someone else steps up to it and goes, lame, right? Boo. And I don't know what y'all's reaction was to the Alamo. It might have been that one of those two, or maybe it was something in the middle. But it all comes down to one thing. And it's just one thing. And this is the most important thing I want to share with y'all today. It all comes down to this: storytelling. Whether or not we care about anything in life has to deal with the stories we've been told about it and the stories we believe about it. And so storytelling in Texas, and maybe this is y'all's state too, we have this idea that storytelling is this thing that happens, right? And maybe we envision a cowboy around a campfire, grandpa pulling a kid up on his lap. Let me tell you a yarn from the old days, son. Or we think about the great storytellers of all time, right? Whether it be Hitchcock or Twain. These guys are storytellers. But there's a bigger truth, and it's this right here. We're all storytellers. Some of us just don't know it. We're all storytellers. Some of us just don't know it. And it's absolutely true. We walk around all day, every day, telling each other stories. Stories about what we did yesterday. Stories about where a project is. Stories about how we're getting involved with something. Stories about our kids. You guys have walked into this conference, and whether you were aware or not, you told a bunch of people a whole lot of stories from the moment you set your foot on the ground to the moment you're now sitting in this chair. Our life is covered in stories. The stories of why you're at this conference, could have gone a couple ways, right? Like, hey, kid, oh, you've left work, you've left spouses, you've left families, like they said, where are you going? Like, what are you doing again? It's like, could have told a story like, well, I don't know, we got this lame conference thing. I go every year, but I don't know why. Maybe I'll see the Alamo, but it's a tourist trap. I don't know. I go to this thing. I don't get a lot of value, but I'll be back in a week, and those projects, we can pick up where we left off. Okay, what was that story? What was that story? It was, I'm going to something, not that excited about it, my optimism about it's in the toilet, and if you ever ask me if you should be involved with NADC or CD, I'll probably say no. I mean, look at my excitement level, right? Like, that's not gonna be contagious to anybody. Or, there could be another story. Hey, where are you going to San Antonio again? Oh man, we've got this annual conference with the National Association of Conservation Districts. I get together with people that I don't ever see but once a year. They're from all over the country. We share ideas. I come back energized, we do things. I learn from experts, and I'm pretty excited. Maybe you could join me next year, right? Well, what's that story? That's a much different story from the first one. They took exactly the same amount of time. One of them transferred pessimism, the other transferred optimism to people around you. We go around and we do this all day, every day, and we don't even realize it. We're telling more stories now as a society than we ever have in the entire history of the world, right? Every time you post something on social media, every time your organization puts out a press release, every time you email someone, text someone, have a team meeting, we're telling stories all the time. And so I want us all to take an inventory of those stories and maybe get a little better at the stories we're telling. Because here's the truth, every single place has a story to tell. Every person has a story to tell. Every project has a story to tell. And so if we're more aware that we're just nothing but walking, breathing storytellers, then we can start to actually embrace that role. Because storytelling has been the fulcrum of society since the beginning of humanity, right? Okay, so I've got a couple things I want to share with you all about stories, but before we do that, it's the Daytripper quiz show. Dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun. All right, here we go. I am going to ask y'all a series of questions, but in order to play the game, you have to stand up. So everyone stand up if you're able to stand up. Now, typically, I talk to nothing but Texans, so these are all super Texan questions, but I think I've brought them to a national audience. Now, a lot of these are still about Texas, but here's how this is going to work. I'm going to put a question on the screen. I'm going to read it out loud, and then I'm going to count to 3, at which point you will boldly say your answer to the question. And the reason for that is twofold. One, it's the honor system, so we can know whether you got it right. And then 2, we can laugh at you if you got it wrong, okay? We're going to do it with boldness after I count to 3, all right? Not before, okay? They're going to start easy. They're going to get a little harder. And then, what are we playing for, Chet? A branded Daytripper Yeti cup. Ooh. Because I know y'all don't already have a cabinet of these that fall out on top of you every time you go. Like the world needs more Yeti cups. All right, here we go. Okay. Here we go. Okay, first up, don't say the answer till I count to 3. This is just a test. What is the capital of Texas? Ready? 1, 2, 3. Austin. It's Austin, Texas. All right, sit down if you got it wrong. All right, no one got it wrong. Very good, very good. Okay, we're still warming up. Which of these states was once a country? Say they got Texas, Oklahoma, Georgia, or Montana. Ready? What's the answer? 1, 2, 3. It was Texas. All right, Texas was once its own country. Sit down if you got it wrong, and we're going to keep going. Okay, all right. What famous soda was invented in Waco, Texas? Ready? 1, 2, 3. Dr. Pepper. It's Dr. Pepper. Dr. Pepper. Sit down if you got it wrong. All right, see? This is how this works. Okay. Next question. All right, here we go. What is the largest ranch in the United States of America? Hint, it's in Texas. Ready? 1, 2, 3. It's the King Ranch. Sit down if you got it wrong. Okay, very good, very good. All right, so if you're still standing up, I need you to raise your right hand. Raise your right hand. All right, pat yourself on the back. You've made it to round 2. All right, yes, yes. But that's not for a little while, so now you can sit down, and when it's round 2, I'll make you stand back up, all right? Okay, so native Texan, young Chet, born and raised, moved around. I didn't leave school for college. I went to the University of Texas at Austin. I majored in film, did what all film majors do, and decided to go to law school. So I was a little bit strange there, but I went to Baylor Law School. And, you know, during this period of time, I did a lot of travel. Well, during my childhood, I did a lot of traveling all over Texas. I got to see West Texas, South Texas, all sorts of things. And, you know, when I got to school, I was like, man, you know, I've been traveling Texas my whole life, been there, done that. I'm going to go out and see the world. And so I took all these opportunities to go and see all those places you're supposed to see before you die. Here's just a little scrapbook, right? Many of y'all have probably been to these places. The rock is California, some national parks. The bottom is Turkey. Of course, the top is Italy. This is Thailand, where for a few bucks you can spoon some chimpanzees on the street. Very good money spent. But then the thing happened to me that happens to people when they graduate from school. Y'all know what it was. So lame. Had to get the JOB. And so I went from looking at things like this to this was the view from my law office window. That's it. A nice taupe. And so I was kind of stuck. I'd spent all this time investing in this degree, found myself with this passion to travel and tell stories, yet I was cooped up inside of this office just doing nothing but yelling at people over email all the time. And so I was like, man, I'm going to go crazy if I have to stay in this office. So, you know, when you're at the bottom of a totem pole of an international law firm, you don't get a lot of time off. And so I thought, man, I got to squeeze out like one day a week when I can go and adventure. And so I went from being the world traveler to the Texas traveler and started rediscovering my backyard. I was like, I can't go away to Europe, right? So let me just go to the hill country. And I saw things like this, which y'all may not know, but this is Enchanted Rock, which is about an hour and a half from where we are right now. It's one of the most beautiful places I've ever been, and it's right there in the hill country. It's like God took a big old granite basketball, chopped it in half, and plopped it in the hill country. And you can hike up this thing. It's not too bad of a hike. If y'all have extra days, it's a great time to go and hike Enchanted Rock. Think Yosemite on a Texas scale or Ayers Rock, like that thing they show in Australia, but we have one in the hill country. Started exploring our coastline. We have lots of beautiful coast in Texas. People don't think of Texas as a coastal state, but we have 360 miles of coastline. This is me after going through some of our show caves in Texas. In fact, it was a cave that's about 45 minutes from where we are called Natural Bridge. And I had done a wild cave tour where they take you off the path and you kind of go through. And I had passed through a place called the Birth Canal. It was a 14-inch opening in the back of the cave that you have to squeeze through sort of like a worm. It's supposed to give you deja vu of something that happened earlier in your life. And so went through this, and I come out covered in, you know, what I thought was mud. But when I told my guide, I was like, man, I loved it, but I got real muddy. He was like, haha, you think that's mud? Like, what would it be? He's like, that is bat guano, my friend. But it's 10,000 years old, so you'll be fine. I'm like, okay, I don't know if that helps. And then this is me bonding with some of our local wildlife in Texas. And I was doing all these fun things, and all of a sudden a light bulb went off in my brain. I said, I'm having more fun exploring my backyard, meeting the people who make up my community, my home state, eating food that I had overlooked until I went somewhere and got a little more perspective, doing things that are literally an hour from my backyard that are more fun than the things that took a plane ride to go and do overseas. Because someone told me I needed to, you know, to do it before I died or else my life didn't have meaning or some garbage like that, right? And so I thought, man, all of us And I started to find this to be true. I'd come back to the law firm, talk about my adventures. People didn't know what I was talking about. Yet if you wanted to talk about some exotic vacation somewhere, they could talk your ear off. And I remember, wow, this is so typical that we've overlooked all the wonderful things that are just right outside our back door in favor of doing something grand and big just because it seems to have some sort of cachet attached to it. When the truth is, adventure is so much closer than any of us had realized. And yes, Texas is a special place, but every state, every community you guys are from, these are all special places. We just got to pick our head up and look around. And so for those that had never seen the Daytripper, this was the intro for the first season of the show.
Ah, Texas. 850 miles from Orange to El Paso, 900 miles from Brownsville to Texline, and thousands upon thousands of highways and dirt roads in the middle. Exploring Texas ain't no small vacation, friend. It's a lifetime endeavor. But what if you don't have years, but just one single day? Well, that's where we come in. From the well-known landmarks to the completely obscure dives and hideaways, and all within a day's reach. So let's hit the road. I'm Chet Garner, and this is the Daytripper.
All right, so that's an idea of what the show is. Oh, y'all don't have to clap. But now for 16 years, we've been telling the stories of Texas, telling the stories of people doing amazing things all over the state, amazing places you can go, but trying to give people this idea that the things we've overlooked that are just right under our noses are a lot more important and meaningful than we've ever given them credit for. We just haven't taken the time to look and figure out their stories. So how do you tell Texas-sized stories? Now, I say Texas-sized because I just mean big, grand. Whatever state you're in, you can apply these rules. And here's some of them. Take the road less traveled. There are so many stories in your communities, but you got to get off the highway to see them. Here's one of my absolute favorite quotes. Thanks to the interstate highway system, it is now possible to travel across the country from coast to coast without seeing anything. Yeah, come on, that's true, right? A guy named Charles Kuralt said that. He was a pioneer. CBS sort of did what I do. And it's so true. I mean, many of y'all are from rural communities that if you drive through it on nothing but the interstate highway, you're going to miss it completely, right? And that's true in Texas as well. San Antonio is a good example. All the ways up I-35, great examples. Radiator Springs, the town from the movie Cars, that's a real place. They exist all over Texas, right? A small community was thriving, the highway bypassed it, and now the community is sort of, died on the vine. Thankfully, we're in a period now where we're seeing some historic renovation, at least in Texas, and preservation. But it's so true. And so Charles Kuralt's quote is true. Here's some places that I love that are under conservation. You got to get off the highway to see them. This is Regency Bridge. It's the last drivable swinging bridge in Texas. Has anyone ever driven over a swinging bridge that you feel it move underneath their tires? It's terrifying. And this one crackles like breaking toothpicks as you drive over it. And just to give you some, this is the height that's over the Colorado River out in the middle of nowhere. It's more terrifying than any roller coaster you've ever ridden. And it's just something that you're going to stay on the highway, you're going to totally miss it. Here's something else, speaking of things that are right underneath our noses. Right east of where we sit right now, there are all these little towns. And if you drive around these towns and you take the back roads, you'll come upon these little country churches. And you look at them from the outside and they just look kind of like any other country church. You might think, I've been in a dozen of those, I don't need to go inside. But these are not just your normal churches, because if you get out and you look at them, this is what they look like on the inside. These are called the painted churches of Texas. The Germans and Czechs who settled the areas east of where we are right now built these cathedrals that rival the old world, right? They brought over their faith with them, and it was very important to them. Often the first thing they built in the community, before they even built their houses, was the church. You know, we have all these beautiful courthouse squares across Texas, and some of them get a little bit interesting. This is one in Northeast Texas, Hopkins County. I don't know if you've got a courthouse like this, but I don't know if you may also have art like this. It's this weird sort of cubist thing. You know, if you were to get out of your car and walk onto this courthouse lawn, you'd be like, there are these weird glass cubes, reflection, I don't get it. Some weird modern art. But if you stay there long enough, you'll eventually hear the toilet flush, because these are outdoor potties. The kicker is they're completely encased in two-way mirrors, meaning from the outside you can't see in, but from the inside you get a 360-degree view of the courthouse lawn while you do your business. And so that is me taking a picture inside, and you can see it's as if the wall doesn't exist. I'm gonna be honest, it's real weird. It is really weird, because you'll be doing what you do in a bathroom, and like right next to you, a mom will push a stroller with kids. You're like, I'm getting, you swear you're getting arrested. Like, this is not good. But these things, they've been voted best restrooms in America a couple times. And these are the things that are right underneath our nose often that we overlook if we're not willing to, take the back roads and the road less traveled. And here's the truth on stories, and you guys are always crafting stories in your conservation districts, right? Your story is ongoing. It's constantly getting written, right? The next chapter, what's the next chapter hold? You don't know. You assume it's going to look like the previous chapter, but maybe not. And sometimes you got to go off-road as you either find the story or you write your story, because this is the truth. Everyone who ever did anything new, by definition, didn't have a road to get where they wanted to go or where they ultimately ended up. So a lot of us, when we try to do something new, we get surprised when there's bumps along the way, when there's turbulence, when it feels like we're just bushwhacking with a machete through the wilderness with no direction on where we're going. But you got to realize that if anytime anyone's ever done anything new, they've been in the exact same spot. And so the resistance is not, evidence that you're going the wrong way. Often it's evidence that you're going the exact right way you need to go, because you're blazing a path that's never been traveled before. And there's so many places that we go off-road in Texas, beautiful spots that are under conservation. Texas boasts the longest undeveloped barrier island in the world. It's called North Padre Island National Seashore. It's 60 miles of uninterrupted beach. And so you enter around Corpus Christi, you kick the four-wheel drive in, and you go on a beach for 60 miles, and you barely see a soul. So if y'all never been to a beach without looking left and right and seeing a souvenir shop and some, airbrush t-shirt thing, like, this is the place to go. Conservation in Texas has allowed us to set aside some of our most prized natural spots. Texas is home to 2 national parks, right? Natural national parks. Y'all might have heard of them. One's called Big Bend. One's called Guadalupe Mountains National Park. They're both out west. But we almost had a 3rd national park in Texas. And I know there's a lot of people here, certainly conservation-minded people, who love our national parks. They're some of the gems of America. And we almost had a 3rd one. The only problem was, it was in East Texas. And when you want to turn something into a national park, the federal government has to find a way to acquire that land, right? Which, in worst case scenarios, is eminent domain. In best case scenarios, they can work out a way to buy the land, or it gets transferred to the Nature Conservancy or some way, right? And so this one, everyone decided it needed to be a national park. It was in East Texas. It was going to be set aside. Biologists agreed. The federal government gave the money. The problem was, when you walk around East Texas and you knock on doors and you say, "Hi, I'm the federal government and I want your land," you can imagine how that goes. No, you don't. So what did they do? Everyone was freaked out. Like, we can't just let this land get divvied up, and then turned into a housing development or whatever. Like, this is important land. It's the most ecologically diverse region of the entire North American continent. People call it America's Ark. And so they said, they got down to the table. They had to come up with a solution, right? Like, we're going to off-road here. We don't know what we're doing. Why don't y'all want this land to be protected? You love the land? Like, of course we love the land. As y'all know, farmers, ranchers are often, they love the land more than anybody because they live off the land. Their livelihood depends on the land. And so there were a lot of farmers over in East Texas and people who lived up and down these creek corridors. And they said, well, look, the second it becomes a national park, we're not going to be able to hunt the land and fish the land and do all the things to the land that Grandpappy did, and that's kind of like our livelihood. And the federal government said, well, but you want it protected? Yeah, we do. And so they came up with a compromise that ended up being the first national preserve in the entire nation, and it's called the Big Thicket National Preserve. It takes the land, sets it aside in the national park system, but it still allows the historic uses of the land that have been going on to continue, which was the big issue. So now, if you visit a national preserve anywhere in the country, it was all part of a compromise about going off-road, finding a new solution to a problem that everybody knew they needed to solve this problem. That land needed to be preserved for future generations. But how they got there, they just had to blaze a new trail. All right, if you're in round 2, I need you to stand back up. Stand back up. If you're not, sorry, you have to sit in your seat of shame and watch these other people. Okay, here we go. Now remember, don't say the answer until I count to 3. Ready? Here's the question. What city name was the official first transmission from the moon? Ready? 1, 2, 3. Houston. It was Houston. All right, sit down if you got it wrong. Okay, here we go. What's the most famous American road that cuts through the state of Texas? Ready? 1, 2, 3. It's Route 66. The Mother Road cuts right through the Panhandle. Okay, this next one I think might be a little difficult. Texas is home to the largest colony on Earth of what mammal? Wow, we got to count to 3. Ready? Hopefully people in the back didn't hear. 1, 2, 3. Bats. Mexican free-tailed bats. All right. So, everyone standing, y'all made it to round 3, but y'all can sit down now. So about good job. Yeah, good job. About 20 miles from here, there is a site that's owned by, well, bat conservation, the Nature Conservancy called Brafton Cave. 20 million bats live in this cave. Largest colony on Earth of any mammal. Crazy, crazy. And they all come out, if you go in the summer, they all come out at once out of this cave. And it is like, it's an overwhelming tidal wave above you. And if you're there at dusk, it's like National Geographic. These bats take off, and then these owls and hawks and everything are like coming in and pulling the bats out of the air and eating them. The kids cry, but it's pretty awesome. All right. Discover the rest of the story. The stories we have about the places we live are so much deep and rich and wide than we ever imagined. You know, there's a lot of people who think when John Wayne died at the Alamo that was the end of the story. Spoiler, John Wayne didn't die at the Alamo. I'm just kidding. But it's true. Like, I know that story. But the Alamo is actually one of 5 missions here in San Antonio, including this one, which is the largest mission in North America. It's Mission San Jose. It's down the San Antonio River. There's a San Antonio Mission's National Historical Park, part of the national park system. Not one of the natural national parks that I mentioned earlier. It's a different sort of park. It's a historic park. But they've done such a good job preserving this chapel and those grounds that you step down there and you feel like you've gone back in time to the 1700s when the Spanish came and built these missions. So if you have any extra time, by all means, go see the Alamo, but I think everybody in the room's already seen the Alamo. Maybe go and see Mission San Jose. It's stunning. It's absolutely stunning. You know, the Spanish left an indelible mark all over the state. And we all say, remember the Alamo in Texas. And y'all aren't Texans, but you probably know that phrase, right? Remember the Alamo. But there was a cry on the battlefield of San Jacinto where we won our independence from Mexico They were saying, remember the Alamo, but maybe even louder, they were saying, remember Goliad. Because this is another Spanish, this isn't a mission, this is a fort the Spanish built. But before the Battle of San Jacinto, about 340 Texian soldiers were massacred here. They had been captured by the Mexican forces. They were being held in this chapel, and on Palm Sunday, they were all marched either onto the grounds or right outside and slaughtered. It's a really heavy story. People go to the Alamo, and that's great, but this site is very revered. It's very somber. You can kind of feel the gravity of what happened there. And, you know, people say it's haunted, of course. And for a very reasonable fee, you can spend the night there by yourself. I'm not lying. The Catholic Church still owns this site, and they will rent out the old priests or officers' quarters for you to spend the night in the mission or the fort by yourself. They give you the keys, then they leave. Who would do it? Okay, a few of y'all are messed up like me. It's pretty weird. We did it. We did it. Had one of the best night's sleeps of our lives as a crew. We split up and had the little bedrooms. It was great. Now, here's just a random aside. That is not the only fort in Texas. We also have the forts that dot the Midwest, right, of the late 1800s when America was conquering the frontier. This is a particular fort in San Angelo, Texas, called Fort Concho. Incredibly well preserved. And you can also spend the night in the officers' quarters, which is the building on the far right of the photo. Now, we had booked it as a crew to feature it and the fact that you could spend the night. We were filming till about 11, and I remember it became bedtime. We were all ready to go to bed, and I looked at my crew and I said, hey guys, so which room do y'all want to spend the night in? And they were like, are you kidding me? You heard the story about the little dead girl that runs around this place? No, we're going to Best Western. And I was like, what? You have a chance to spend the night in an 1800s fort and y'all are gonna go to Best Western? I was like, well, fine. I don't even need y'all. I'll spend the night there by myself. Worst decision of my life because that place is horribly haunted. I didn't sleep at all. And I remember I was laying there, I don't know, 2, 3 in the morning listening to what sounded like people throwing dishes in the kitchen. And I was like, I should probably go see what that is. And so I got up to the door and I was like, wait, this is how everyone dies in the horror movies. I'm not gonna go see what that is. And so I locked the door and I just laid in bed and stared at the ceiling, praying. And so anyway, I got up and left like right at dawn, like the purple sky before the sun actually comes up. Like, that's it, it's sunrise, I made it. And I jetted out of there. But there's so many more stories. And when I say discover the rest of the stories about your towns and communities are constantly changing. We're living in a golden age right now about in archaeology, discovering all sorts of stuff that's rewriting the books. In fact, about 20 miles from where I live, there's this site, which is considered the most important archaeological site in North America right now. No one really knows about it, but essentially, just to give you all a primer, we considered that humans got to North America about 12,000 years ago, and that's what every history book you read says. Well, now they started digging in this site, found undeniable evidence of humans on the North American continent 20,000 years ago. Since that time, they've discovered another site in North America, and they're like, oh, snap. What happened? And so the history books are being completely rewritten based on the things that are being found at Galt and this site in North Carolina. And then, of course, with LIDAR, we're scanning the rainforest that we thought was virgin rainforest, and we're finding all kinds of stuff underneath the virgin rainforest. It's wild. So in your communities, always look for the rest of the story you think might not be complete. Now, here's a beautiful conservation piece. It was a private farm that recently got turned over to Texas Parks and Wildlife. It's called Honey Creek State Natural Area. And we went out there, and I thought we were going to make an episode about just a beautiful stream. And it is a beautiful stream. Some of the cleanest water in all of the hill country goes through this little creek with these palms and bald cypresses. Absolutely gorgeous. But we went out there and started talking to the guys like, well, y'all protected this area because of the creek. And they're like, well, no. Like, what? Obviously, it's the creek. And they're like, no, you don't understand. We've got 500 acres here that are doing nothing but recharging the aquifer that San Antonio relies upon. And so you're like, well, I thought parks were about just beautiful places for us to go out and get our feet wet. And they're like, no, you don't understand. Parks are so much more than just places to go have a picnic. These are critical to our entire water table, to the ecosystem of all of us. The fact that we can all live. Like San Antonio in the Hill Country, water's becoming a big deal. And so the state set up this. They set up another park called Government Canyon nearby us that we went out to. That's the largest urban, the whole park is within the city limits of San Antonio, and it's over 1,000 acres. And it's there to recharge the aquifer. People just don't understand how important conservation districts are, these places, these wild places, that if we lose them, that's the whole domino tower of house of cards starts to fall down. So tell those stories, find the full story, tell the complete story. Here's another thing, connect with people's passions. So I know that many of y'all make the food that we live on, but there's nobody out there who doesn't love to eat that I've found, right? And this is me with some Texas barbecue. And we tell, the Daytripper is a multi-dimensional show. We tell a little history, we tell a little outdoors, tell a little food, and it doesn't matter what we do, people gravitate toward the food because we all got to eat. So when you connect to a passion someone already has, you can make a lot more ground with the stories you're telling. Texas has invented some amazing foods, one of which is Tex-Mex. Now, y'all love Tex-Mex? Y'all have eaten Tex-Mex since you've been here, I hope. Tex-Mex was invented on the streets of San Antonio. And eating Tex-Mex in Texas is like a pastime, right? And if you go other states, it's not the same. If you go to Mexico, it's not the same. That's Mexican food. This is Tex-Mex. What makes Tex-Mex different? If you go and eat something at like Casa Rio on the Riverwalk, you're like, this is different, but I can't quite put my finger on it. Well, it all goes back to these women who worked the plazas of San Antonio in the 1800s called the Chili Queens, all right? Now, these Chili Queens would set up these banquet tables, and they would stay, white tablecloth, candlelight, and they would stay out there till 4 in the morning serving pots of chili to anybody and everybody. Politicians, lawyers, drunk cowboys who wandered out of the bars, right? And so they stayed around long enough for us to get photos of them. This is one of the Chili Queens of San Antonio. And so they would take that chili and they would put it on top of dishes. They would put it on top of tamales. They would put it on top of rice. They would put it on top of beans. Y'all catch what I say? The beans did not come in the chili, all right? The chili went on top of the beans. Those are fighting words in Texas. No beans in Texas chili. And so that's where the Tex-Mex came from. So even the food we eat has a much bigger story. Here's a guy who saw a story and capitalized on it in a really big way that I think we can all learn from. So I mentioned earlier Route 66 passed through Texas. Well, this guy, his name was Robert Lee, or Bobby Lee. He was a kind of a showman, lived up in the town of Amarillo. And these people, tens of thousands of people were passing by on Route 66 all the time. And they would get to Texas and they would go, this isn't Texas, this is just gas stations and stuff. It looks like everything else. It looks like Oklahoma. And he was like, well, we're missing an opportunity. People want the story and we're not giving it to them. And so he created what I think is probably the most Texan restaurant on the planet to cater to these travelers, to give them the story and the passion they were looking for. This is called the Big Texan Steak Ranch. Have y'all ever heard about the Big Texan Steak Ranch? And why have you heard about it? Because it's home of the free 72-ounce steak. But what's the catch? You got to eat it in an hour, right? So that's 4.5 pounds of meat. And you don't just have to eat the steak. You got to eat the baked potato, the salad, the roll, and the shrimp cocktail. But people, dumb people like me, come from all over, and they come and they eat that steak because he saw an opportunity to tell a story, a better story that people could connect to. And now the Steak Ranch is one of the institutions of Texas. Yes, I tried to eat the steak, failed absolutely miserably, I remember after I finished, I talked to the owner. I said, hey, did you think I had a shot? And he's like, no, Chet, not at all. I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, look, I watched you, you can never judge a person based on body type. He said, it doesn't matter. There's some big old boys who'll step up and they won't finish it, and then you got some rail-thin women who will get up there and they will finish that steak. He said, he goes, you just were eating too slow. I was like, what do you mean? He goes, look, we say you have an hour, but you don't. You have 20 minutes. He said, because after 20 minutes, your stomach will tell your brain, shut it down, you're about to kill us. And so if you don't have that whole steak in there before 20 minutes is up, it's over. And so I was talking to camera and reminiscing and all this stuff and just, blew through the time without even knowing it. At the time we ate that steak, the record was 9 minutes. And it was Joey Chestnut, the guy who eats all those hot dogs. He had come and finished it in 9 minutes. And then right after we filmed, a woman came to Amarillo and she ate 2 of them in 18 minutes. 2 of them. The video's online. I don't recommend it. It's nasty. It is, she looks like a zombie eating a brain. It is gross. We have so many things all over Texas. People are passionate about birding. The largest bird in North America winters on our coast. And if you want to know how big these are whooping cranes. Here's one next to a cow. They migrate from northern Alberta, Canada, down to the Texas coast and stop over at many of your states. I know that to be true. Here's some other things. Never let the truth get in the way of a good story. That's a Texasism. And I'm not saying to lie, but you can start everything with legend holds and then tell them whatever you want, right? We have the world's littlest skyscraper in Texas, which has a whole story on its own. They thought they were buying a 350-foot skyscraper, but the guy who raised the money in Dodge Town left behind plans that instead of having 1 apostrophe mark, it had 2. They bought a 350-inch skyscraper. Here's another great story. This is a county courthouse in Ellis County, which is up by DFW. And beautiful Romanesque revival. If you were to look around the facade of the courthouse, you would see a beautiful woman repeated. And the legend holds that a stonemason came in from out of town, and when he got to Waxahachie, Texas, he fell in love with a girl, and he fell so hard he decided to carve her face into the facade of the courthouse. And here she is. Isn't she beautiful? It's the little bangs for me, the little curly bangs that does it. Well, he got about halfway through, and wouldn't you know it, she dumped him. And well, his opinion of her goes from angelic to a little more demonic as they want. And you can do that. It looks like it holds up. Is it true? Of course it's true. Because a Texan told me, and Texans never lie, right? Okay, if you're in round 3, stand up, please. We gotta burn through some stuff. I'm having too much fun with y'all. All right, ready? Don't say the answer until I count to 3, all right? No freebies for the people in the back. The Heisman Trophy is named after a coach from what Texas university? Ready? 1, 2, 3. Anybody know this one? Rice! Anybody? Nobody knew it. All right, if y'all are still in it, you get to stand back up. You're still in. That one was a little too hard. All right, we'll try this one. How many U.S. presidents have been born in Texas in honor of President's Day? Ready? 1, 2, 3. 2. I heard someone say it. Who said it? Okay, well, a few of y'all did. Very good, very good. All right. What Dallas-born rapper recorded the fastest-selling hip-hop album of all time? I'll give you all a hint. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Vanilla Ice. Did you get it? He got it. All right. Did you get it? Oh, we got 2 left. All right. We got some other questions. Y'all get to sit down now. All right. Very good. Very good. All right, guys. Don't bury your failures. And forgive me for having to move a little fast, but there's so much that we learn when we fail forward. And so we don't need to bury the things that we do wrong. We've done so many things wrong on the Daytripper. I tried to mountain bike through a national park. Turns out mountain biking was not allowed, so I had to carry my bike. This is me when I went and visited the Kilgore Rangerettes. See, to err is human, and we know that. So when we try to bury the failures, the challenges, we're only making ourselves less human. We need to learn from them and even celebrate them, because you can write as they say, right? You write a sentence from success, you can write a novel from failure. So as long as we're failing forward, that's okay. And so what I like to do on the Daytrippers, when I screw up, I leave it in. In fact, here's me dancing with the Kilgore Rangerettes, which people don't know, it's the first drill team in America. Without them, we wouldn't have high school drill teams. We wouldn't have Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders, all the entertainment at sports games. And so I got to go and meet some. And this is just a little clip from the show of how that went.
Yeah, nothing yet. It's very supportive, but you also really want to give your best to this organization. So.
Cool.
Question is, can they teach you how to kick?
What? I wasn't going to ask. I was going to be a gentleman about it. I don't know if they're stretched, Daniel. I don't know. You're like, we can kick on cue. All right. I'll back up. Give them some room. Oh my gosh. That wasn't just a kick. That was an air split. Like you were like.
Why don't you try? Come on, Chet.
Okay. All right. I won't pass up an opportunity to kick with the Rangerettes. Well, I might need to stretch a little bit first. Oh.
You're gonna step on 8, and you're like, you go up on 1.
Okay. This is gonna be epic. Kicking with the Rangerettes. Yes.
5, 6, 7, 8, 1.
Ate it.
Yeah, I need to warm up a
It's
little
totally
bit more.
ate it.
Oh my
Thanks,
God.
Larry.
Guys, it's okay to laugh at ourselves. It's okay to laugh at each other, right? We're laughing with each other. Embrace the people. Nothing happens without people doing it. And we learned this early on the Daytripper. I started to feature restaurants and then didn't realize, like, I featured this pizza place in Wimberley and the viewers reacted more than I'd ever seen. I was like, what was it? The pizza was fine. Well, the reason was this pizza restaurant didn't have any employees. It was the husband, wife, and their 13 kids who ran the pizza joint. Bruce Colley was a mountain of a man. He's over there on the far right. If you ask nicely, he would take out from behind the bar the 2 Super Bowl rings he won blocking for Joe Montana and the 49ers. Incredible. People react to human stories. The people who came before y'all, we're all standing on the shoulders of giants, right? Here's a barbecue joint that's east of Austin called Snow's Barbecue. People wait in line for 4 hours to eat this barbecue. Not because the barbecue is so exceptional it merits. People spend the night in the parking lot. It's that the pit boss to this day is 90-year-old Miss Tootsie Tomanets. People go and wait in line 4 hours just to get a glimpse of her doing her thing back there. People move people. Here's a picture of a drone show that they recently gave her in honor of her birthday. She's a living legend. And if you got 4 hours to spend in a parking lot, you should go out and eat the barbecue. It's incredible. But here's the last rule I want to just encourage y'all with, or the last, I guess as we call it, bit of encouragement that we all need to be sharing the better story. Remember, guys, we're all storytellers. Some of us just don't know it. And so we live in a world of challenges. We live in a world of divisions, right? You just got to turn on the news. You can see all the pessimism that's out there. But I want to encourage and challenge y'all to fill the world with goodness, light, and optimism. And I'm guilty of telling bad stories. And I'll tell y'all one right now that, like, this was probably one of the worst parenting things I did. And I remember when I was little, my kids were little, they would often ask, Dad, why do you have to leave and go again? Can't you just stay home and play Legos with us? And so I would, as a young dad, would kind of mimic probably what I heard my dad say, or I at least thought it was funny. Why do you have to leave and go to work, Dad? Well, you kids are expensive, and someone's got to feed y'all, or else y'all are going to starve to death, and then I'll go to jail. And so it's like, okay. It's like, I suddenly felt very convicted after doing that. Like, well, what kind of story is that telling them about the value of work, right? You leave work, you leave for work, you leave the ones you love to go and make money, because at the end of the day, money makes the world go round, and it's all about money, and someday you'll have a chance to make money and leave your family behind too. Like, what? What a terrible story to tell my kids. And I thought, man, if I'm out here talking about the value of stories, I need to tell them a better story. And so I immediately flipped the script once I realized and felt convicted about this. And they asked me, and they still do. I've got a 6-year-old at home. He says, Dad, why do you have to leave? Can't you just stay home and play Legos with me again? And I thought, well, I'm going to start to tell him a better story. Son, I don't want to leave you. I love you very much, and it would be fun to stay here and play Legos with you. But God has gifted me with certain gifts, and it's my job to go out there and share those gifts with the world. And someday, you'll have the opportunity to share your gifts with the world, and I can't wait to watch that happen. How much more powerful is that? Right? This is the power of stories. They take the exact same amount of time. One sets them up for optimism and hope, and they realize that work, whether you're leading conservation districts or you're feeding our country, you're helping provide for your family, there's a great story there. So continue to tell the good story, tell the better story, and let's fill the world with optimism. Here's a wonderful quote that I love so much. Tell me a fact and I'll learn. Tell me a truth and I'll believe, but tell me a story and it'll live in my heart forever. Thank y'all very, very much for letting me out here. We got two winners, so I'm going to get them both Yetis. A round of applause for our winners there. Great job.
Thank you, Chet, for joining us here today. The conservation leaders gathered here this week know that many of our greatest adventures and the places that we keep in our hearts are often closest to where we live. They are local leaders who understand well how conserving working in natural lands creates health and wealth for their local communities and opportunities for all to enjoy the food and natural wonders of our beautiful country. As we embrace and explore the theme, Deep Roots, Bold Horizons, Chet's story is an important reminder of the value of locally led conservation and all who depend on our actions to ensure the places and natural resources we value today remain here tomorrow. Would you please join me in another round of applause for Chet? Before we conclude, I have a few quick announcements. Thanks to our meeting sponsors displayed on the screens for their support of this year's NACD annual meeting, enabling us to gather here this week. Please join us next at the Conservation Showcase to visit with exhibitors while enjoying a coffee break and networking. Chet will also be nearby at registration to meet and greet and take photos with attendees. At 11 a.m., join one of the several breakout sessions for learning and networking. Consult your agenda and the Sched app for session topics that most interest you. We'll reconvene back in this room at 12:15 for our leadership luncheon. We must quickly turn the room over for lunch, so please take your conversations outside of this room and exit promptly. Thank you for being with us here in San Antonio.